पधारो हमारे देश যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে
बरसने लागी बदरिया रूम झूम के बरसने लागी बदरिया रूम झूम के रूम झूम रूम झूम रूम झूम के बरसने लागी बदरिया रूम झूम के बरसने लागी
तोरे नैना की लागी कटार सजनी चैन पावे न मनवा हमार सजनी चैन पावे न मनवा हमार सजनी तोर नैना नैना रे तोर नैना की लागी कटार सजनी
pani sa pani sa re ga re sa re pa ga re ga re sa ni sa sa ni pa ba ga re sa sa ni pa ba ga re sa sa ni pa ba ga re sa va ta pi ganavatim bhajega va ta pi ganavatim bhajegam sa re ga re ga sa re ga sa ga re sa ni pani sa re ga re sa ni pa ga re va ta pi ganavatim bhajegam.
Welcome to 70mm, a special segment of Chasing Love Festival organized by Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Founded by late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, the organization is dedicatedly working towards socio-cultural welfare in India as well as abroad.
We are present in more than 40 cities all over the world.
This segment of the Boutique Festival, curated around love, is named 70mm. We have with us Ms. Ashwiny Iyer Tiwari, Mr. Jugal Hansraj, Ms. Kaveree Bamzai. Ashwiny is an Indian filmmaker and writer. She made her debut by directing the 2016 comedy drama Nil Bate Sannata. The film gathered critical acclaim. Ashwiny has also won the Filmfare Award for the Best Director for the year 2017 romantic comedy Bareilly Ki Barfi. Our second guest, Mr. Jugal Hansraj, is a very well-known Indian actor, model, producer, writer, author, and national award-winning director. Jugal has acted in several well-known movies as a child actor, namely Masoom, Karma, and has featured as a model for television and print media. As an adult, he made his acting debut in Aa Gale Lag Ja in 1994. Subsequently, he featured in Mohabbatein, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, and Salam Namaste. He was a writer and director for the 2008 computer animated film Roadside Romeo. In this episode, along with Ashwiny and Jugal, we also have Ms. Kaveree Bamzai. Kaveree is an independent journalist and author of books like No Regrets, The Guilt-Free Woman's Guide to a Good Life, and Bollywood Today. She was the first and so far the only woman editor of India Today. A recipient of the Chevening Scholarship, she has worked in the Times of India and the Indian Express. She has spoken at several media platforms on cinema, gender, and youth, and was a TEDx speaker. She currently is a columnist with Open Magazine and curates events and online sessions with the New Indian Express. In conversation with them, we have RJ Stutee of Fever 104 FM. Stutee Ghosh has been in the media world for almost a decade and has won the prestigious India Radio Forum Best RJ Award. Welcome, everyone.
Now, they say love should be celebrated every day, but then we also agree that when it's 14th February and Valentine's Day, we want to give in. That's when the chocolate tastes sweeter and the roses smell nicer, and you basically want to look at the world through rose-colored glasses. What a day then to be discussing about love in 70 mm. So in real life, I have my distinguished panelists here, Ashwiny Iyer Tiwari, what a phenomenal filmmaker, now author, Mapping Love, your latest book. I have Kaveree Bamzai, again, someone I always look up to, 30 years, more than 30 years of being such a well-known journalist. And Jugal Hansraj, with you, I have to say, it feels like, we know your journey. We've seen you from Masoom to, you grew up literally in the industry, your films, then you became a director. Now you're a children's book author. So this is going to be fun. And just to set the ball rolling, lots of questions. But what I want to start off with is, since we're talking about love, and I'll just limit it for now to romantic love. For so many of us, even before we experience it, we understand what this feeling is. We've seen it on the big screen. It's the love songs and the love stories and this larger than life, couples on screen. For you, what has been the iconic moment, scene, song that represents love, that you still hold dear? So starting with you, Jugal.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Stutee, for having me here. Hi, Kaveree again. And hi, Ashwini. Lovely to meet you. Yeah, so, growing up, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, obviously films were a big part of, our growing up. Watching songs on Chai Geet and Chitrahar on Sundays and Saturdays. And, going to the cinema hall was a big event. It was a thing, to look forward to and go. So all my early memories or images of romance are obviously from the movies. If I talk about Hindi films, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of romance is, a few people. One is Rishi Kapoor, Neetu Singh, R.D. Burman. Those Kishore Kumar, Asha Bhosle, those kind of songs which I still listen to. So that's the first thing when it comes to a visual of romance from childhood. That was it. It looked like a fun thing. These guys made it look like a fun, So that was my first impression. I
like how you put it. They made it look like a fun thing. I'm going to come to that later. But now coming to you, Kaveree ma'am. What is for you the moment, when, that you still think represents love for you on screen?
I'm going to go with something unconventional, I think. But for me, really, the bromance between the three boys in Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, which was a sort of echo of Dil Chahta Hai.
Yeah, okay.
For me, it was the ultimate bromance. Here were these three guys, three different kinds of guys, so very cleverly slotted by Zoya. And the journey that they took and the discovery of themselves and of, who they loved and how they loved. For me, that really was a romance, but not necessarily heterosexual or not even sexual. Just this new kind of love, which doesn't necessarily come from that old feudal kind of mentality that it has to be Parivar approved. Like it has to have the Parivar stamp of approval, or really how we've understood love over the years as essentially what is now considered stalking. So I think we'll have to come to that later. But for me, really, it was like, I think that movie was quite iconic.
That the playfulness of it all. Okay.
Yeah.
Ashwini, coming to you now.
For me, it would be. I watched a lot of Tamil films when I was growing up, and for me, the romance between Shivaji Ganeshan and a whole lot of movies which were there, whether it was one film where they were like, it was about two people who belong to a dance unit and a musical unit, and how they used to travel from one place to the other, and how romance bloomed there. So it was like romance in the most unconventional places, where you don't see romance as like a typical love affair between a man and a woman from a certain spread of society, but love in the form of to see love in various strata of society, and that is what creates curiosity for me. For me, it was also a Sound of Music. And that kind of love which was there for me, it was even Lamhe between Sridevi and Anil Kapoor. So it was like all these unconventional love, which was not talking about the quintessential love between a man and a woman of a certain age or anything. It was just about love which can be anywhere, anytime, between any person. So it was that, and of course then Mills and Boons always gave you the certain criteria of romance, which I don't think so today the generation even knows what that is. I know my aunts and all who have like packs and packs of Mills and Boons, because that took them to a different world, which was different from their own. It was that. It was Tiffany at Breakfast at Tiffany's. It is all those very different kind of scenarios, which is unconventional. Yeah.
Lovely. I love the images you all have thrown up, from the bromance to Mills and Boons. I think it gives me a segue to my next question. I was just thinking, there's so many aspects that we can cover through this, but Jugal, I think you represent a species that is now probably extinct, the chocolate boy, nice, no complicated, love in your heart, lover that you were on screen, be it Mohabbate or Papa Kehte Hain, and those songs. I mean, you don't get those love stories anymore. I was just cribbing with one of my girlfriends, is there love? No love in this world, that we don't have that. So we're seeing different shades. Of course, it's great because, we're a month back, you had Chandigarh Kare Aashiki that released.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes you miss the simplicity of that, So we don't have chocolate boy heroes anymore. What do you make of it? You've grown up in the industry. Now you have a certain distance. How do you view this? How do you view love that is being shown on screen today?
Yeah, it's completely changed, definitely, as it should, I suppose, moving with the times. And, movies like, say, Chandigarh Kare Aashiki, and in fact, quite a few of Ayushman's films, which are very interesting. That's changed. So now I think more than it. So earlier, what I think is there was a typical kind of love story format with the boy and girl, and there was a typical action kind of format. And in the love story, there were two genres. Generally, I thought of the leading man. One was the playboy, the Saif Ali Khan kind of, singing with five girls. And one was the kind of stuff I did, and too shy to tell the girl he loves her. But now I think they've become more characters. So rather than a type, it's more different characters are what's appealing to actors and also to the movie-going public. But yeah, somewhere I do miss when I really enjoy the movies. They're very interesting. I do miss the lyrics and the songs because nowadays it's mostly like background music. Nobody's really lip syncing or expressing in that format. Though I suppose that's again a sign of the times. People are moving more towards that kind of cinema. But somehow I miss that. That had a little charm to it.
No, I absolutely. And you gave us that iconic Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. You were the one.
Yeah, that song. Yeah. Yeah, that actually was. I didn't plan. I'm not a composer. I was in those days learning singing from Suresh Wadkarji's school and all that, but it was just a hobby. And I heard the script narration. The director was a college friend of mine, and he narrated it. And I just the next day, and in that night when I couldn't sleep, I came up with this whole song, the first 8 lines of the song, with a tune and melody and everything. I recorded it. And then the next day we were meeting for lunch because we were young and not much work going on. So we used to meet on weekends, So I sang the song out to the group of friends and they all went crazy. They loved it. So then I forgot about it. I mean, I had it on my dictaphone, but then the director called me and Karan, he said, listen, it's a month later. I'm working with the composers, Jatin Lalit. They're doing a great job. They're coming out with a great soundtrack, but this title song is stuck in my head. Can you please come and sing it to them, and can I use it? Can you do me, like he wanted me to do him a favor. I was this, do yourself a favor, don't take this song. I'm not a, I'm not a composer. Then don't blame me if your movie flops or something. He said, no, I want this just like, as a friend, just come and sing it to them. They'll record it on their dictaphone, and then, we'll take it from there. I said, okay, but at your own risk, I'm happy to do it, but then don't like point fingers at me. And anyway, I went into their music room and I sang it out to Jatin Lalit, and they liked it very much. And they said, we can use it, quite gracious of them. Of course, then they did the whole production and the antras and all that. And then when it was recorded, he sent me an audio tape and I was very stoked. It's like, wow, this little melody I made in the middle of the night because I wasn't sleeping is now I have a tape in my hand, that little audio tape. And that was it. And then, like 10 months later, the movie came out and suddenly the song was like the rage of I couldn't believe it. I still can't actually.
No. Would you hum a little? Please do, before I go to Ashwini. Just indulge us a little.
I've done it on my Instagram a couple of times, but I have to be in the frame of mind. Otherwise, I'm generally quite shy. But when no one's home and no one's looking, sometimes I sing it. And then a month later, I put it up.
I'll try my luck again and ask you nearing the end of the session. But Ashwini, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I thought of it is that every time if friends meet or if there's any kind of get together, or even if you're like thinking, the first songs which you think of is always the old songs, whether it's Ajib Dastai or whether it is Neela Asman, or you always think of the black and white old songs, and you never or you have like Jagdish Singh ghazals. It is always those kind of songs, and you never think of the new ones, and you always remember the songs of the old, the lyrics of the old times, and you hardly remember the lyrics of. So when Jugal was talking about it, I kind of remembered. You always think about the old golden songs, and especially when you're feeling sad or whatever, it's just like those songs which you remember the most, which is kind of a little odd, but yeah.
Exactly. So just to borrow that,
in fact, that day there was an Elton John song, and I was thinking, oh my God, we used to you have this rose days, and now of course we're talking on Valentine's Day and all this stuff. So you used to have this rose day and this Valentine's Day and all, and that point of time you only used to, wo radio pe ye sab gaane bajte the, wo pura feel like this Elton John, everything I do it for you.
For you.
So this is that generation.
No, absolutely. Yeah, yes.
But I think, what's happened now, that's been replaced by this more unspoken kind of love. When you watch Piku, for instance, I love that love story between Irfan and Deepika. Everything is just through the eyes and through silences and just the way they're so comfortable. When that movie ends, with them playing that badminton. It is such a lovely moment. He's not exactly in the house. He's out. No, I think they're both in the.
Both outside.
They're both outside in the veranda.
And the maid has just come, and she's saying she'll come from tomorrow. And I felt that so much was said. Or even when they're eating on the banks of the Ganga in Calcutta. I mean, what a beautiful romance. It's one of the most touching romances I've seen in the last few years. And there's nothing that's said. It's all through silences, all through glances.
And also that Sarod bit, which is now everywhere on Instagram.
Everywhere now. That Anupam Roy is like everywhere. But I feel that, when we talk about that whole idea of, music being the soundtrack to our lives, and that really it's all about romance at the end of the day. But sometimes when I hear say Rata Lambia everywhere now or Ranjha, but people actually don't even know sometimes. I've asked a lot of people, do you know which movie it's from? And they say no, they actually don't know. But it's just a song. It just reminds them so much of something.
And sometimes the cover of those songs are more popular than
exactly
the one by the original.
So I think the relationship between love and music has really changed, I think, in Hindi cinema. And I think that's why we're a little poorer for love stories.
No wonder. And it's so tough to actually keep music out when you're discussing love.
Yeah.
But I want to get you in, since you wrote about the three Khans and then you have Shah Rukh. And
who is, of course, the king.
Matlab to, where and even Shah Rukh now is struggling. We haven't seen him in a love story for such a long time.
No, we saw him. It was Harry Met Sejal, and it was creepy, I mean, it was almost creepy. It was.
He only apologized.
In fact, it was he's apologizing to the girl all the time for her crush on him. Essentially, I think he's essentially apologizing to all of us. Please don't have a crush on him.
But he actually
because for us, he's the ultimate romantic icon. And what does he do? He never gets intimate with the heroine. Very rarely. In fact, that was one of the few movies in which he actually kisses the girl, and I think that's really something that he doesn't. It doesn't work for us. Our idea of romance is him sniffing your neck, which is, again, very creepy to think about it. But, or, Salman Khan going mad for you in Tere Naam. Our notion of romance actually is very twisted, We're a very twisted nation. And this is what we get excited about. A man has to go mad. He has to go to a mental asylum. You have to die. And wow, that's a romantic movie. Or your entire family has to play cricket together 14 times and sing 14 times for you to, for you to sort of, for that love to be sanctified, so it's very strange. We're a very strange lot.
No, we are.
That's why Seema Auntie is so popular.
Everyone eventually needs
a match.
But I think another thing that's happening now is that you're seeing love in their various shades.
Yeah.
Ashwini, I want to get you in because I thought that was such a special film, Ankahi Kahaniya, where you directed the one with Abhishek Banerjee, where the man develops feelings for a mannequin, and throughout the film, when it starts, you feel like that's creepy, what's happening, but by the end of it, you're with him, and you kind of get it. So tell me where you came from when you made that.
So this happened during the lockdown is because we were briefed and we said, okay, let's make something. And actually I had a different idea, and it was a full-on thriller. And one day I woke up, and with the way the pandemic was going on and what was happening, I said that I didn't feel like making that. That film. And I called up Ronnie Screwvala and told him that I don't feel like doing something like this, is because the environment is such that we need to think of something which is more meaningful, or at the same time have a little joy. Also, I just wanted to challenge myself, and I felt that you're known to make certain kind of stories, and I want to challenge myself and say, okay, if she's doing something like this, did she do this? Okay, she thinks like this also. So that was kind of thing which I wanted to challenge myself. And it was a best way to explore a different identity in terms of the characters. This also came up with the fact that a lot of people who come to the city, whether we call them migrant workers or we call them people who work day in and day out, or they have a job here. I knew when I was working in the agency in Leo Burnett, I would see some youngsters who would come early in the morning, have breakfast in the office, and not leave until like 12, 1 o'clock in the night. And we always used to check and ask, why are you guys not leaving? Why don't you just go home? And they just told me one thing, that there's nothing called home. For us, this is home. We kind of meet our friends here. We have lunch with them. We have dinner with them. And that's what it is, because we just go home to sleep and come next day in the morning, because there's nothing more. No one is waiting for us at home. And that was like the juxtapose, is that it is a lonely city. We all are so busy in our lives that we do not have the time to talk or even understand. Even our phone calls have converted into messages right now. I hardly remember not talking on the phone and explaining things or understanding things. Even including with my mother, it's like, okay, if you can't call me, then why don't you just send me a voice note? And let's discuss on voice notes. So that's the kind of conversations which are happening. So the art to listen. So there's this guy who is very keen to tell what he feels. So it is not about the creepy falling in love and having a kind of a creepy love or a kind of physicality to it. It is the idea of that, you know what, I need someone to listen to.
Companionship.
We need a companion. We need a companion. And that's why people are attached to things. People are attached to their pets. People are attached to things which mean something to them. And that can be living things and non-living things also. So it got back to us on the idea of, in school we used to write essays. That essay was like, they would give us one object and we had to give life to that object and write an essay about that. So whether it was like a watch or whether it was anything else, something which you're attached to. And that's how that idea came. But it eventually, the way it was structured and how it was written and what we saw, from paper to screen, it was a very difficult transition, is because you could go anywhere. But at the end, all we needed to say is that everyone needs someone to talk to. And therefore, people talk to the fan. Like in Bareli Ki Barfi, I had Pankaj Tripathi talking to the fan, is because there's no one who listens to him. So ultimately, the only thing he thinks that he can talk to is the fan. And that's why they say, let's talk to the walls, is because when there's no one listening, who do you talk to? And that's what we wanted to capture. But of course, it's a yin-yang, it's a male-female attraction also. Is that so there are shots where he kind of is getting attracted to her, but then he feels a respect which is not, which says that, you know what, sorry, I just want to listen to me.
So somewhere, we talk about how society has evolved, our stories have changed. And but no matter how things change, they also remain the same, because this is a society which accepted an Aligarh, Piku, Chandigarh Kare Aashiki, but also one where a Kabir Singh is a hit, a Pushpa is a hit. Are we confused? Do we not know what we want? Or is Bollywood today really confused about what they should serve us as love and romance? Do you sense that? Kaveree,
No, I just feel, Stutee, to some extent, I of course can't speak for Bollywood. Maybe Ashwini is in a better position, but I think the South has a certain genre of melodramatic love story.
But we seem to love it. The North loves it now. We've taken that grammar.
But don't forget, we've been fed on this diet of dubbed South Indian movies for the longest time. So we've developed a taste for it. But I think because the South does it, I don't want to generalize, but generally they tend to do it in an unapologetic manner. That this is who we are, this is how we love, this is how we show our emotions, so take it or leave it. Whereas I think what's happening in Bombay is they want to, they're not quite sure. Should we go there? Should we go back? Should we, if we're doing a romance, does it always have to have a reference to DDLJ? You'll find everything is in some way an ode to DDLJ. Why? There must be romances for now. And people like Ashwini are trying that. And you see a lot of that happening where you have these smaller town romances, the Dam Laga Ke Haishas and Should They See romances, where a lot of interesting ways of loving are being explored, not just in terms of whether in and out of marriage, but also sexualities. And I find that very interesting that it's going to the smaller towns where a lot is happening. And Bollywood is trying to sort of capture that sense. But I think in the South, when you look at a Mani Ratnam, say, Okay Kanmani, I mean, it is unabashedly romantic. You have the romantic songs, you have the usual boy, girl, on a motorbike, just enjoying a ride. Don't see that kind of thing so often now in Mumbai movies. And I think it's because they're not quite sure where they are. and who they're catering to. I think because the North Indian audience is also so disparate, I mean, UP, Bihar is one, then you have Punjab, which is forever Punjabi. It's a lot. There's a lot going on there, I think.
Ashwini, I'll come to you and then to Jugal. Ashwini?
I think the idea of love have different translations across the spectrum of society in our country, and every place, whether it's the smaller towns to the roots where you have a mobile phone just in your hand and you can like just in a click of a button see songs which are in varied spectrum called love, whether it's like a Punjabi single which is shot in the most beautiful locations, or you go to like a quintessential single song just on a guitar, where there are a lot of youngsters who are portraying that kind of spectrum. I just feel that it is about the curiosity factor, and it is that's my own judgment, is that it is like a real world and a surreal world. So that's why we like watching Rohit Shetty films, and we like the single screen theaters. Tali iske liye bachti hai, for the simple reason is that you go and you want to enjoy that whole expanse of characters and what happens there, and then you come out of it and you enjoy it, and then you come out of it. For me, I think it's that curiosity. It is that real world versus surreal world. The moment we say, okay, realistic films or which represent love in various forms, then you start dissecting that in terms of, that's why it is called realistic cinema. And or maybe a little OT, over the top, or how do you pitch the kind of stories you want to say. Most of the time maybe this doesn't go in your scheme of things, but I would like to know and watch this film to know what actually happened. So that's curiosity. So but I just dissected that way. It's that, okay, this doesn't happen in my scheme of things. I've not seen something like this. So maybe I'll just go and watch it and experience what happens there without any judgment. The moment we start judging is when we start taking, okay, why this was said like this and why this happened next. But there is no right or wrong. That's my take. There's no right or wrong, is because there are still some of the best dance numbers which are still played in marriages and people enjoy it. So who are we to be judging that? For me, it's about experiencing and being curious about that world. And that's why we like Spider-Man, and people go and watch Spider-Man and action movies. So I just put it at the same place. I may be completely wrong. I don't know, but this is just my kind of judgment. Squid Game the Squid Game was like, everyone wanted to watch Squid Game. There were like kids who were teenagers who were taking permission. Please let us watch, So that's what it is.
No, you raised quite a few points. I'll come to those, but right now this is a panel which is dominated by women, and I was just wondering, when we're talking about love, does the gender perspective also play a role? Jugal, I want you in here. You directed Pyar Impossible. I just feel like there were more of my female friends who were upset with a Kabir Singh than men, who I think were like, Ashwini said, we saw it's a film, it doesn't really matter. We are not like that. What would you say? Do you think there is that basic gender perspective that comes into play when we're depicting love or watching it?
Yeah, so what Ashwini said was pretty also right, that the way I see it is, India is such a vast country. There are like millions of different kinds of people. So there will be an audience for, Kabir Singh, because there are a lot of people who enjoy that, and there are a lot of people who don't. So who would like Chandigarh Kare Ashiki or a Bareilly Ki Barfi, and there are some who would like both. So it's such a vast and big country with so many different cultures all in one, that it's difficult to really pinpoint, who's going to like what. The thing is, people make their movies according to their sensibility, what they think works or what they enjoy. And then if it's made well, it'll find an audience. And of course, if it doesn't engage them, not necessarily being a bad film or whatever, sometimes films don't click with you, then it doesn't find its audience. But like there are different kinds of movies today. I think it's just great that it's not just one kind. There are, of course, the big budget over the top, as you say, or even the larger than life cinema will always be there because that's escapism. Like I still remember going to the cinema and enjoying Simba very much, or Dabang or something like that, which is fun. But there's also other kind of movies. So it all kind of finds a place. And about me directing Pyar Impossible, when I read the script and the kind of brief given to me by the producer, it was written by Uday, who also produced the film and also starred in it as a lead actor. I decided this film, to me, when I'm reading it and if I'm going in to direct it, I should see it more from the girl's point of view. Though it's about the boy who's this geek who can't tell the girl he loves her. But I kind of almost wanted to make it like, I don't know if it's the right term to use, but like a chick flick, like something that the girls would like, a very fairy tale-ish kind of romance. So I kind of tried to think, from the other perspective. Like, what are the girls' thoughts behind, like, what kind of guy does she want and who does she actually land up with? Because sometimes what you want is not necessarily the right thing, or, what you're looking for. Maybe you're just looking in the wrong direction because that's what you're conditioned to. So I tried to think of it from the female perspective in a way, which is difficult for me, but I kind of, reread and tried to think what would a girl think and then try to portray that. So in fact, there are a lot of girls who have liked the film more than the guys, I think. So maybe on that front, because it still plays on Amazon Prime. Yeah. Here in New York, I'm surprised. There's so many non-Indian people who have seen it and enjoyed it, from ladies, women who have enjoyed it, and they were in fact surprised because they didn't know much about the movie. They probably saw it because of Priyanka Chopra, who's now a big name here or something like that. But I was quite surprised with some of the feedback I've got. So I did maybe somewhere kind of succeed a little bit in that, bringing that perspective of the way the girl thinks, which was difficult. But, I think somewhere we did a little bit.
No, absolutely. Kaveree, so we girls, we like fairy tales. But what about stalking, like you said, or a lot of people ask me, so should we not make a film on? Can we not make a film on a stalker? Can we not make a film on an obnoxious character? You can, but then comes in the responsibility of how you're projecting it, right? Somewhere in Kabir Singh, we felt like he was rewarded for his terrible behavior, or I had that issue with Ranjana with that last voiceover where I felt usko amar pyar kaise bana diya, how do you do that? What would you say?
But I think that is where this whole judgment comes in, that when you make a love story, you have to suspend your judgment to a certain extent. When you look at Atrangi Ray, there's so many issues one has with the way mental health is dealt with there. And he's a doctor, for God's sake, Dhanush. You feel particularly angry. But then, it's love. And, it's supposed to be.
But hasn't it messed with our head? The whole concept of taming the girl,
exactly. No, but you have that. Either it's taming the girl, or you have the man-child, and the girl waits for the man-child to grow up, and finally, like in Wake Up Sid, he grows up, and he's worthy of Konkona Sen Sharma. You have that trope. You have this other trope where the girl understands finally the purity of the boy's intentions, especially if he slits his wrists and tries to commit suicide. So you have all that. But I think it's also because, when Hindi films tend to make love stories, say what they did with Sairat. When it was made in Marathi, the original Sairat was such a powerful film. It was in your face, but it was a love story, but it was in your face. When you come to the Hindi version, it's stripped of all complications. It's stripped of all the cast is not even mentioned, So I find that very problematic. But I also understand that certain kinds of cinema, and now I think love itself is a kind of fantastic realm. It's the way sci-fi was treated maybe 20 years ago. a pure love story is in that genre now. There's nothing called a pure love story now. It's almost like a unicorn. So when you have that, you don't know what to do with it, so you have to put in all kinds of things. And, then there are questions. Is this acceptable? Is the boy's behavior acceptable? Should the girl be waiting for this man-child to grow up from a Saif Ali Khan, version of Amrita Singh to Kareena Kapoor Khan kind of thing? So I think that's where because as a society, we're changing so much. Actually, it's just reflecting who we are. We're changing so much. Our notion of romance is changing. Our notion of family is changing. Our notion of companionship is changing. So much is changing. So obviously, the confusion is reflected, I think, in our cinema.
Also, isn't that now women actually say what they find romantic? I mean,
the most attractive thing in Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara is when, Katrina actually kisses Hrithik. It's supposed to be a revolutionary moment. The girl is taken, the lead. And a lot of people found that very attractive. So it's, horses for courses.
But Ashwini, I'm sure, we're dissecting love and talking about it. But when you come up with a story, when you write it, do you keep these things in mind? Are you, is the social responsibility aspect or what it stands for matter to you as a filmmaker?
Absolutely. For me, as a filmmaker and as a writer, when I'm creating something, I do want to keep that social responsibility in place. So if you see any of my films, I'll just make sure that, there is a certain kind of decorum which is needed in the kind of stories I say, even in the kind of pitching I do. I always make sure that the characters are always respected. In terms of what is being said. Because sometimes what happens is that we write something and when we are on flow, it happens unknowingly. And that unknowingly should not happen. It should be done with a lot of social responsibility. I feel that it's very important that whatever it is, even if it is the story requires that the girl needs to be demeaned, but then there has to be a reciprocation of why it happened and what is she going to be doing there. Also the kind of respect at whatever level which is needed from the man to the woman and vice versa also. So I'm not saying that there are no dark characters or there are all characters are always flawed. And that's what makes characters shine. And in the end is because they see a journey which from flawed characters to kind of reciprocating and understanding why they did certain things and what happens. But for that flawed character and for that for her to move from point A to point B, or for him to move from point A to point B, there has to be an equal reciprocation. It cannot be like one is just going on and on, the other is like, there's nothing about him.
Stutee, I was just thinking, I was just listening to Ashwini and I was thinking, what's happened, I think for the longest time, that in our movies, it's been boy meets girl. It's never man meets woman, It's still... I think our movies still infantilize us, So there will then have to be a parent, there will have to be a grandparent. It has to be within a certain context. Our heroes and heroines, I think they're so wary of aging. You very rarely find a love story between a man and a woman. Show me, I'm not saying you have to have All Our Souls and you have an 80-year-old Robert Redford falling in love with an 80-year-old Jane Fonda. But it usually is, even if you're a 50-year-old, you're still a boy, and the girl is still a girl. She's very rarely a woman. It wasn't so, I think, in the 50s and 60s. I think it began with Shami Kapoor. He was middle-aged, but he was playing that boy, was always going to the mountains and finding some Kashmir ki kali and on some shikara somewhere and bringing her to the city and sort of, suddenly Lalita Pawar would be humanized. And there was always a Lalita Pawar.
it's as simple for me because I was just I just finished a schedule right now and it just came up, is that we were discussing a short and the mother, the wife, there's a scene where the wife is supposed to be a part of that conversation. So suddenly one of the person told me that, ma'am, why can't we do one thing? Why can't she just be in the kitchen? And why can't she just come out of the kitchen and then go back into the kitchen? And I said that why always when there's a conversation, the woman has to be in the kitchen and she come back from the kitchen and she'll go into the kitchen. Why can't she just be a part of the conversation?
No,
and she has to know and have a cup of tea.
Yeah, that's why we need more women in the writer's room. No?
Yeah.
So why can't she just have a cup of tea? And why does she need to go to the kitchen and come back from the kitchen? So I said, no, I don't want to see her in the kitchen. She's going to be sitting here having a cup of tea. So these are the little small things which may not be noticed, but I think we consciously make sure that these little things are happening so that it just creates more that you do not need to have. Like there was one ad which I saw and I really liked it. I don't know. I think it was for a food app where the mother and the son are playing a game. And they're competing against each other in the game. And she just doesn't want to cook that day. And she just wants to play the game and finish it off. And when the guy rings the bell, she just tells the son to go and pick up the food, is because she just doesn't want to get up from that place. I think that's what is conscious writing. That you just need to consciously start writing which celebrates the flaws in a man and a woman. So you don't necessarily need to go... you don't have to be gender biased there.
And the operative word is man. Words are man and woman. Not boy and girl.
Yeah. No, and also I think another thing that comes across is the fact that here's, suddenly women are talking about what they find attractive, because for now the narrative was uski naam mein bhi haan hai. You assume that the woman likes to be stalked or likes to be complimented in a particular way, and that's how it is. And now you have more women who are writing films, making films, consuming them and saying what they actually like. We don't have much time left, and I will just pick on that one thing which you said was very close to my heart, that love as a concept has become like a unicorn, which we don't know what to do about. It's like sci-fi, what is this mystery? Tell me, do you see this happening? Because now our stories are rooted more in reality. The masculine hero, the kind of, this larger than life hero who will beat up 40 people is still there, but you see more real heroes, the kind that, like Jugal said, Ayushmann represents, that, he's a typical guy and, they have their flaws. They can't possibly do everything. What eventually is the future for this genre, for love stories? And we'll end with that.
I really wonder, I think unless our stars, and really love stories are still very much driven by stars, just as the big tentpole action is, so are love stories, where there's a certain relationship and an emotional investment we have in them. I think unless they decide that they will play their age, or they will play, I would love to see a mature love story, say between a Shah Rukh Khan and a Madhuri Dixit. I know people tell me Dil To Pagal Hai was that. I would love to see a new Dil To Pagal Hai. Why can't they play who they are? What was one of the most attractive things about Zindagi with Alia Bhatt was the relationship between the therapist and again, there was a slight borderline kind of thing there. You weren't quite sure what was going on. It was more than just a therapist and a client. Those kinds of things are very interesting ways of exploring it, but I would love to see a straight on. Okay, I'm not saying please, nobody should think of a love story between Shah Rukh Khan and Alia, but creepy, but let them age up. Let them play. Let them show us their lines. Let us see their lines.
I think what we need is we want women. Yeah, we want to see women on the big screen and not just girls.
Yeah, and ditto with the boys.
Jugal?
I think once that happens, we'll see a lot more. The reality will be a lot more alluring. I think.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be a lot more interesting. But to be honest, in my experience, there are not too many takers from the from studios and producers.
True, yeah,
I think it's the onus is on them. I'm sure the writers and people who think about creative people are coming up with ideas. But from what I have experienced, the first reaction of a producer or studio is, no, it's not. No one's interested in this. So they have already decided it. So that mindset. So a lot of people want to do new age stuff, but they still want to stay in that framework of safety and comfort, even though they try to fool themselves that they're doing something different. So they change two things and they feel they're doing something revolutionary, but they're still within that framework. So I mean, I don't think. I think the onus is on the people putting in money for the movies rather than the creative side of people.
That is
so. Once that opens up, I suppose at the end of the day it's a business and they want to, But the thing is, nobody really knows. Nobody can tell for sure. So they all think they can tell, but I think it's on them. If they are open to trying things, then a lot of avenues will open up for different kinds of movies and ideas and thoughts.
I completely agree. In fact, the one reason I'm dreading Pushpa is the films that will follow because of Pushpa's success. I mean, that I'm already
in the Hindi world. Oof.
Yeah. We were really scared for that Friday. Okay, Ashwini, final word.
I think for me, it's like the patience of love in an impatient world right now. It's what's summing up to me. Is because at one side you see a lot of these Korean love dramas and you just want to see like episode after episode, and at the same time when you kind of write a patient love story, it's like aage nahi badh raha hai, isme kuch ho gaya. So that's the whole thing, is because if you are in a cinema hall, you get up and you leave because there's nothing happening. Or if you are on you're watching it on OTT, you have the option of playing it forward. So for me, it's boiled down to this whole thing of the impatientness of an audience who wants something to happen all the time. And doesn't have the patience to sit and watch. But the irony is that at the same time they're watching Korean dramas, which has so much going on, and at the same time they like. Also, I do feel there is a viewer changing pattern right now. The pattern is changing is because they have the patience to watch these kind of stories in a form of a web series. So scenes from marriage or a marriage story or even an Emily in Paris or the Spanish show Valeria or any of these kind of love stories are doing very well when it comes to in a long format in episode by episode. But if you're watching it in cinema, the translation of the patience which is needed, all the drama, like what Jugal said, is like all the drama which needs to come in is what needs to be explored. At one point of time, Agar Tum Saath Ho, the whole film, the whole song is shot with just like, the patience of that. And understanding that, I don't understand you, you don't understand me. I don't want to push you. I don't know what's happening between both of us. I wonder, we all love it and we're like watching it. We'll watch that song because I love that song. And you'll keep watching it on your phones and on your laptops. But as things have changed right now, do we have the patience to watch is what my question is because everyone is in a hurry. Kuch ho nahi raha hai. ये तो 2 घंटे की इसके थोड़ा और कम करो. That's where we are. ये कुछ हो क्यों नहीं रहा, कब से बैठे ही हैं. Why is nothing happening?
That's particularly also with Indian audience. हमें मतलब कुछ हो नहीं, कहानी में क्या हो रहा है is the question. what it's about is never the question. Kya chal raha? I mean, something has to happen all the time for us.
Yeah, and something has to be drastic now, like in Haseen Dilruba. Somebody has to cut off their arm or their leg, or that to prove that they love this person. And it's quite scary.
Yeah.
Just a simple declaration of love is not going to hack it anymore. It has to be like
Silsila.
Yeah,
I would love to make Silsila, but I remake Silsila and see it's an iconic film. I will never remake it. But I'm just saying, if we had to like make Silsila again right now, it would be like, how much are they walking?
And how many tulip fields? And why does the mist never clear?
I can give my own example, like when in 95, 96, we were doing that film Prabha, Khaitan. There was a song.
Lovely songs, yeah.
There was one verse in that song which like 6 lines, 4 lines of the verse and then 2 lines. It goes into a cross before joining the mukra again. I remember the way it was filmed is he did the 6 lines. He did in 2 shots. Like he did 4 lines in 1 shot, where he said you just walk and you look into the camera and you're singing as if you're just confiding in a friend about this girl you met. Just talk to the camera, like don't do anything. Just sing it out as if you're talking. And then he cut once more, and where I sit down for the remaining 2 lines. And today, even in a simple soft song, if there is the rare occasion where they do lip sync or they do something like that, there are a lot of cuts, and even the impatience comes there that I have to do something to just show it. I can't just have somebody walk and sing quietly like 4 lines in a row, unless it's a concept song like in Dil Dhadakne To, where the whole song is done in 1 shot or something. It's unheard of. Like for someone to just stand and walk and like sing as if they're just talking, it would be like completely shot down by everyone concerned, and even the neighbors of the people concerned.
Or if you have a Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, supposed to be an intimate love story, triangle, quadrangle, whatever, everybody has to be so larger than life. Everybody has to be dressed as if, they're about to step into some grand ballroom. I mean, there's nothing real about it, It's just so fantastic. So it's...
Which is why, probably a film like Piku is so special.
Yeah, because it's in the moments, it's in the little silences, it's in the little glances they share with each other. It's so lovely. Lunchbox.
Essentially,
Lunchbox. Look at Lunchbox.
In fact, there are a lot of odd films that have this beautiful, like as you said, Lunchbox, Piku, Bareli, Barfi, I thought was, funny
so
and still have that quality. Some of Anand Rai's films that, like even Tharu as one who had that, unspoken kind of romance between these two. It was there's still stuff being made, which is very has its own pace.
There are portions of Kareeb serial also I really like.
Oh yes, what a lovely film! I love that. I think anything that Irfan has been in, which is somewhat romantic, is beautiful.
And you were talking about man and woman. Imagine Irfan and Taboo. I think that would.
They're the ultimate. Look at Namesake. What a wonderful love story it is between Ashima and Ashok. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Lovely. What a day. We chose Valentine's Day to talk about love, and we all were smiling, and we had, there's so much that we share in the songs and the films. I think we've given you guys enough to now want to go back and listen or watch. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. I wish we could have done this in person, but never mind. We made the best use of technology. Thank you so much. You gave me so much to, this discussion became so rich with the different perspectives that you guys offered.
We would have ended up weeping about Irfan. Thank God we didn't meet.
Jugal, I told you, will you indulge us last? Will you sing for us? Perfect end to this. But I don't want...
You log on to Instagram, and on one of my few brave moments, I put up a few songs. I put like 3 or 4 small videos. So definitely have a look.
They're quite the rage. Okay, I tried, but never mind. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Lovely to meet you all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
On behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I would like to thank Ms. Ashwiny Iyer Tiwari, Mr. Jugal Hansraj and Kaveree Bamzai, with a special mention to RJ Stutee. I would also like to extend my gratitude towards our presenter, Shree Siemens Limited. Last but not the least, our viewers and patrons, without whose effort this session wouldn't have been complete. Thank you all very much.